Well, football, and maybe more importantly being an Argyle fan, is never plain sailing. The highs of a win at Luton immediately kind of slammed back down to earth, isn't it? That is football for you. That is being an Argyle fan for you. A sixth defeat of the season for Argyle. A third at home, this time at the hands of Peterborough United. This is Argyle Analysis, myself, and as always, Aaron Cusack will be talking through the game, trying to pick the bones out of maybe what went wrong for Argyle on the weekend, Aaron.
Yeah, frustrating, wasn't it, Charlie? I think on game day, Rob and I were saying at half-time how it felt frustrating in the first half and even more frustrating in the second half, where there was a real air of optimism that they'd get their third win in a row, especially at home against the bottom team. But it didn't materialise, and as you said, that's football, and football has a funny way of bringing you straight back down to earth.
Tom Cleverley actually said after the game, and I wonder whether this is something that, you know, being a young team might affect. He said the team needs to deal with being a favourite in a game. And I think a lot of people, certainly Argyle supporters, would have had Argyle as a favourite in that game. Bottom of the table, albeit maybe in a false position, off the back of 2 wins, 3 wins if you include the cup game. Yeah, there is a different pressure with that, isn't there? Being the onus is on you to go and win the game.
Yeah, absolutely, it really is. And you know, it's about, if you're not going to win the game, make sure you don't lose it. So as a mindset, we talk about winning mindsets and things like that. Be difficult to beat. So if you don't win the game, make sure you don't lose it. And I think the fact that they lost the game really deflated any momentum that had been created in the previous 2 games.
Yeah, Argyle were searching for what would have been a first triple win on the bounce in the league since the season actually we got promoted from League One. That's how rare it has been, and it is an annoying one at home, you know, considering how strong the home form has been over the last few seasons. But Peterborough actually have a very good record at Home Park. They've won 4 of their last 8 matches now at the Theatre of Greens, so maybe a happy hunting ground for them. Anyway, let's have a little look through the pivotal moments, I suppose, in the game. You know, they had their chance to take the lead after weathering a bit of a storm with this opportunity from the penalty spot. And these, you know, this and then the goal happened within about 5 minutes.
They did, and it felt like it came out of nothing. You know, we started quite brightly, as we have done in games. Ashby Hammond, I thought, redeemed himself brilliantly well, because that was a really good penalty save. And then 4 or 5 minutes later, as you say, Kyoso just got the better of Barley Mumba, has a strike across goal, and it just parries right into that area that Jimmy J. Morgan, you know, slots home for his 3rd goal in 3 games. He's certainly had a good start to his career at Peterborough, hasn't he? And they'd have been disappointed because it felt, I wouldn't have said completely against the run of play, but it felt like we had lots of possession without creating anything ourselves. and then within a blink of an eye we've conceded a penalty, and then we're a goal down, and then you are chasing it. And we're just seeing the back end of the goal again, where they break beyond, good first touch, strikes across goal like you're encouraged to do when you're a developing player, and it falls into that area and it's slotted home. And it was really disappointing to have conceded in that way.
And when you look at the goal as well, it was a bit of chaos. Jimmy J Morgan putting a bit of pressure on Matthias Ross, who was off balance when he headed it. It was picked up in the middle by Peterborough, and then I think it's a third time that a goal has been scored from a save from Ashby Hammond that's followed up. But I don't know whether that's any sort of like trend or theme or whatever. I don't know whether he could have done any better with that. Possibly not. Jimmy J Morgan scored 3 goals now, all within like the 6-yard box, hasn't he?
Yeah, they're all one touch, aren't they? There's 2 goals prior to that were like a ricochet deflection and a knockdown, exactly like you've just alluded to there. And going back to Luca Ashby Hammond, I think him setting high standards for himself will probably be a little bit disappointed he didn't hold on to it. However, I could understand why he didn't, because of the angle it came at. I think it dipped just in front of him. It's just a case of anticipation. I mean, I don't think you can put fault on any individual in that scenario. It was just they picked up the loose ball, they hit us on the break, and then it fell into that dangerous area and it got slotted home, unfortunately.
A clinical moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
For them, Peterborough, they hadn't kept a clean sheet yet this season. It was the 2 worst defences, if you want to put it that way, in the league. So there was every chance that Argyle might be able to get themselves back into the game, certainly the way in which they've been playing of late, but potentially just a little lack of a cutting edge, maybe? Yeah,
we've got a couple of examples that we're going to try and work through, and this was actually a nice passage where they did work the ball well at times during the first half and second half, and it just lacked that little quality, that little bit of finesse that we're after. Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to focus on combination play, and what I'm going to do is try and set the scene for what we mean by combining. So when we combine, we have a passer, we have a setter, and we have a runner. And we've got to make sure that in a ever-changing scenario, who is the passer, who's the setter, who's the runner. So here's in a scenario. So Matti Saranola could potentially become the passer in this situation, where he lends it into Owen Dale, allowing Boateng to become the runner and Talai to become the runner ahead of the ball. And because the ball is not moved quickly, it reduces the opportunity to move it. However, literally a second later, we got another moment. So Saranola could become the setter, Ibrahim could become the passer, and Boateng could become the support runner if that materialises. It doesn't, and then we move the ball, but we don't really go anywhere with it. And there was a little theme. So if we keep that same principle, passer, setter, runner, we've got Ibrahim, we've got Talai, and we've got Owen Dale. So here's one where it nearly came off, but recognising your role in a moment. So passer, Talai's the setter. Now what we want is a little diagonal run by Owen Dale for a little slide rule ball by Bradley Ibrahim. The intention is there. So there's your moment, look, for me. So Owen, look at his body shape. Dale's shape is to run on a diagonal, and then Bradley Ibrahim plays into the area he's vacated. So it's just a slight breakdown. Second half, Talai, what he's got to do is he's got to have options. He's got to know where those options are. So someone has to capture his attention. For me, it would be Boateng, because you've got Mumba and Bradley Ibrahim who are going to break beyond. So what Talai could do is recognise where Ibrahim is and slips him in himself. So he's the runner, he's the setter, and he could break in that last line. Or if it's not on, could Boateng just get in his eye line to invite a set, a pass onto a run? And that's why we talk in the past, and we have in this game, about being a little bit more incisive on that last line. Because the ball speed was a little bit too slow, we didn't really capitalise. And in the same breath, in this moment here, Saranola, if he plays it into Talai, who becomes the setter, Ibrahim could actually make a little off-the-shoulder spin in behind, allowing that incisive pass, but a little bit of a breakdown in communication. For me, Charlie, that's just building relationships in time. Yep. Ibrahim hasn't been deployed as a pocket 10. Talai is relatively new, and it's just building those relationships.
And he is definitely a player that can be that setter. He can run in behind. We've seen that, but the last couple of games in particular, we've seen his presence.
Yeah,
that you can afford to have those runners off him. He's good at that.
Yes,
he looks good at that. Anyway.
He very, very much is good at that. And where I think that they're not quite on the same level yet is not often on Saturday was the ball played into him and he set it first time. And if you're setting it first time, for me, that's premeditated. That means this is a passage that I understand. I know I'm going to get a support player in front of me, so I can set it, allowing someone else to pass and another player to run onto. Hence that notion of the combination.
Right, let's have a look at some of the other scores then from around the division over the weekend. Some really interesting ones, actually. Bolton beating Wigan in the Lancashire derby, the ex-Argyle manager derby, if you will. Bradford beating Cardiff, inflicting a first defeat on Cardiff, going top of the table as well, which is huge for them. Port Vale and Reading, both down at the bottom of the table, also getting victories. There's the top of the table, there you go. Bradford and Stevenage, who would have thought that? Lincoln as well, top 3 in League One at this stage of the season. Tremendous starts from them. Peterborough off the bottom of the table. Argyle go to Burton on Saturday, who have kind of replaced them, I suppose, in that slot. So you'd think another potential opportunity for Argyle to get some points, but as we saw on Saturday, it doesn't always go that way.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think it was safe to say Peterborough were in a false position. Yeah. We knew how many new signings they'd brought in just last week. I think, was it 8 of their starting 11 on Saturday were brand new. So it was virtually a brand new team for Darren Ferguson. So, you know, I'm not sure if Burton have had the same influx of players, but nonetheless, they've got to do their homework. You don't want to go away from home to the bottom team and get turned over easily. So they've got to make sure they're difficult to beat.